It is insane to say that you have no problem with taking an individual that's accused of a crime with no due process, putting them on a plane, and throwing them in a packed jail cell in El Salvador that they can't even get them out of. Man, they can't even get them out of there. They can't even say, whoops, we fucked up. This guy is innocent. He didn't actually do the crime he was just accused of committing. He stays in that jail cell. That is so bad.
Okay, so one, we don't know that we can't get them out because our government brokers deals. But are you okay with homeless people being in prison?
If they're committing all these felonies, why the hell aren't they getting arrested for it?
Because they're undocumented.
Okay, so you think if you're an undocumented migrant, you're just immune to getting arrested? So you're saying that you're not okay with the taxpayer paying money to support a criminal justice system? What?
I'm not okay with us paying for people that shouldn't be here in the first place.
Oh, okay. All right. So let me go and ask you a hypothetical question here. Well, actually, it's not hypothetical because the Trump administration is insane and has already done it. Do you agree with the Lake and Riley Act?
Refresh me on that because I haven't read that in a while.
Sure. The Lake and Riley Act, in a sense, what it can do is it basically allows ICE to detain and deport undocumented migrants that are accused of like violent crimes.
Uh-huh. Okay. Why would I be against getting rid of these people?
You don't see the glaring issue?
Go ahead, give me your synopsis of it because I'm not a mind reader.
They're being deported for a crime that they were accused of, not a crime that they were found guilty of. There would be absolutely no precedent for them to be placed through the criminal justice system and into a jail cell in their home country because of a mere accusation in America, meaning that if an undocumented migrant did really rape a kid, they were accused of it and they got deported, well then all of a sudden you are now saying that you find no problems with child rapists roaming free in the streets of other countries.
Okay. So two issues. First issue is that they're not just deporting these people back to their home country. They're taking them to countries that will put them in prison. And this is the whole issue with that dude, one of the dudes that had the tattoo, the soccer tattoo.
So you're saying that they're going to be thrown in like a prison in El Salvador? Well, now you're saying that these individuals should have no due process and they should be placed in a jail that they can't get out of on the basis of a mere accusation.
Which leads me to the second issue. That you have two Supreme Court cases that took place last year. You have Mayorkas v. Beauvoir, where Ketanji Brown, that was a 9-0 decision. Ketanji Brown wrote a 15-page opinion as she was the lead on this, stating that because Congress gave the Department of Homeland Security the sole authority over green cards, visas, and immigration, that they are not to be questioned, and nor do these people obtain the rights of due process because they are here on a status that is not that of a citizen. And then you have State Department v. Manoz, where it says that they don't get due process. And that was a 3-0 decision or a 6-3 decision. Okay.
So let's assume that the Supreme Court decision that you are referencing is talking about due process to be thrown in an El Salvadorian jail cell and not just deported, scapegoating the due process perceived via an immigration court. I'm not making a legal fucking argument. I'm making a moral argument. Our government should not advocate for policy to throw people inside of an El Salvadorian jail cell on the basis of an accusation with no due process, no criminal proceeding, that they can't even then go and get the individual out of the El Salvadorian jail cell. And I find you to be an incredibly immoral individual for saying that you have no problem with that. I think what this demonstrates is a lack of a concern, a lack of any gesture of humanity for anybody that's not an American citizen. I mean, if this was an issue of American citizens, you, alongside other people on the right, would be up in arms. I mean, shit, you guys might even start evoking the Second Amendment if you're catching my drift. It is insane to say that you have no problem with taking an individual that's accused of a crime with no due process, putting them on a plane, and throwing them in a packed jail cell in El Salvador that they can't even get them out of. Man, they can't even get them out of there. They can't even say, whoops, we fucked up. This guy's innocent. He didn't actually do the crime he was just accused of committing. He stays in that jail cell. That is so bad.
Okay, so one, we don't know that we can't get them out because our government brokers deals. But are you okay with homeless people being imprisoned?
I'm not okay with homeless people being in prison because they're homeless.
So why are you not advocating for the changing of laws in 48 states?
Oh, I absolutely would advocate for that. And maybe we could agree there.
Yeah, so you say I'm immoral for...
And I'd say the same thing to anybody that supports that legislation
being
as well.
upset about non-Americans, but I'm more upset that the fact that they keep making legislation to put more of Americans in jail or fined or whatever.
What is this argument? Sir, are you saying...
I'm getting to you. Be patient. It's coming.
Okay,
it's coming.
I'll wait.
It's a slow burn, but I don't, and you can call me immoral because at any given point in time, you care more for your own being and those that are in your life, your mom, your brother, your sister, your mother, your uncle, whatever. You care more for them than you do your neighbor in the time of trouble. So why is it, could you call me immoral?
You're making a false equivalence.
It's not a false equivalency because if your apartment was on fire, you're not going to go put a fire out down the street. You're going to take care of your apartment first. It's just common sense.
Okay, here's why you're making a false equivalence.
Okay.
Because you're justifying the fact that you literally don't give a single shit that undocumented migrants, according to you, are being arrested, detained, and deported to an El Salvadorian jail on the basis of a mere accusation with no due process, because you'd rather first focus on American issues, such as banning laws that jail homeless individuals for being homeless in 48 states. And the reason this is a terrible argument is because you're not saying that you care more about Americans than these undocumented migrants that I just described. You're saying that you only care about the Americans and you don't give a single shit about the undocumented migrants that I just described.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Just allow me to finish here. That's
not what I'm saying.
You're acting as if there is a finite amount of fucks that you could give. You're saying, here in this finite area, I only have, let's say, 10 fucks I could give. And right now, I've directed all 10 of those fucks to American citizens. Therefore, you have 0 fucks to give about undocumented migrants that are arrested on the basis of an accusation with no due process, put on a plane, then locked up in an El Salvadorian jail. Sir, I'm pretty sure that the most moderate, the most bridging the gap between us, a thing I could do right now is to tell you, okay, advocate for reform and the laws we have in place here in America. I think that's awesome. But also advocate against legislation that deports individuals, locking them up in a jail cell in El Salvador on the basis of an accusation. Both of those things are modern day atrocities that we observe in our criminal justice system and related government entities.
So you would have to disagree with the Supreme Court's decisions.
Once again, sir, I already repeated this. I'm not making a legal argument. I'm making a moral argument. If the Supreme Court ruled,
so you're saying that the Supreme Court's immoral, correct?
And it is legal to put somebody in a jail in El Salvador with no evidence, no reason, no due process, that is immoral. Yes.
Okay, so that's your argumentation with immorality, and morality is with them, not with me.
So it is with you,
because I'm all for helping everyone. No, I'm all because you didn't ask. You just made
I did. You told me that you agree with the Laken Riley Act.
You made a presumption.
No, I asked.
You made a presumption. So because I added in the whole deportation part to El Salvador because you stated that they would be deported to their country where they might not face justice for what they may or may not have done. So I'm all for helping others after we have been helped. That includes everybody in this live.
Do you agree or disagree with the Laken Riley Act after the information I've shared with you?
I'm going to go read the Laken Riley Act. I'm not going to make a decision based off of what you stated. I need to go read it for myself.
So, okay, how about we just like read the summary together? I don't want to.
No. But I don't want to read the summary. I'm going to read the entirety of the bill because reading summaries don't give me the whole picture.
Okay, you know what? That's fair. I advocate for education. I advocate for research. I think those are all good virtues. But I just have a hypothetical question. If the Laken Riley Act gives our federal government the reserved authority to deport an individual either to their own country or to a jail cell in El Salvador on the basis of an accusation and arrest for a violent crime, do you disagree with it for the reasons I just listed?
They already have without the Lake and Riley Act.
Okay,
that's the problem. You're trying to get me to go get some act.
You could agree with other things too, but this is what if this is what the Lake and Riley Act states, then would you disagree with the Lake and Riley Act?
I disagree with trying to give people that aren't citizens due process.
So you would still agree with the Lake and Riley Act?
Because Brittany Griner didn't get due process, did she?
Obvious.
Brittany Griner didn't get due process, did she?
We'll talk about Brittany Griner in a moment. Answer my question. This means that you would agree with the Lake and Riley Act, even if what I said about it was correct.
I will agree or disagree after I've read the act. That's my answer.
Sir.
Let me read the act and then we can revisit this another time. I'm not going to give you an answer on something that I'm not 100% sure of.
I said if I'm right.
I don't play the if and then. I want to read the act and then I can give you a definitive.
You don't play critical thought?
No, that is a critical thought, but you're trying to catch me in a part where you can say, "Oh, he said this." No, I'm not going to play the game. Let me read the act, and I promise you, I will give you a definitive.
But I just want to say, like, this isn't like a gotcha moment. Like, I feel
you were looking for a gotcha.
The reason,
come on now,
a reason why if-then questions, as it would apply to like political discourse, aren't a gotcha moment, is because it's just simply like demonstrating like something that hopefully logically follow. Like, for instance, if you asked me if Kamala Harris was a worse presidential candidate than Donald Trump, would I have voted for Kamala Harris? My answer is no. Okay, it's not like that was a gotcha or anything. Mr. Cage, go ahead and take it away. Tell us why you voted for Trump.
Hey, Dean, I got a question real quick. What percentage of illegal immigrants use fraudulently obtained Social Security numbers? What do you think that number is?
If I had to guess, it'd probably be below 1.
Below 1? No, it's 75% of them.
Dude, what kind of bullshit is this?
That's according to Center for Immigration Studies. Is that a good source or no?
I would love to see it. What do I look up to find it?
CIS.org.
So CIS?
Center for Immigration Studies.
Immigration Studies, percentage of undocumented immigrants with fake SSNs.
Fraudulent obtained Social Security numbers. It's how they get jobs.
Okay, so no, you could work as an undocumented migrant on a work permit through an ITIN. And then also...
Okay, but you said 1%, right?
Yeah, I don't see anywhere where it says 75. Like, would you be able to give me like the title of the article? Because I just looked up Center for Immigration Studies, percentage of undocumented migrants with fake SSNs, and unironically, nothing popped up.
How Social Security and DOJ can help expedite deportations.
Okay, I found it. So this is actually just on their blog. It's written by a guy named Robert. Interesting.
Okay. Okay.
Anyways, let's go ahead and read.
But you think it's 1%, right?
Okay. So it says here, 75% of illegal aliens, use fraudulent.
I know you hate that word, don't you?
Social Security numbers to get jobs. So it makes a claim. Where's the evidence for the claim?
I mean, what do you mean? You need evidence for everything, right?
Yeah.
What kind of evidence would you need for this? It's a claim. It's a .org. What more?
Fraudulent? This is just a claim made by a guy named Ronald on their blog. Where's Ronald's evidence? You understand that,
you make claims. You also make claims with the same kind of evidence, with the same kind of, with no proof.
No.
Yes, you do.
Like what?
Like your claim of how many grape victims a day? From the guy Samuel, what's his name? Samuel something?
Are you saying like my claim?
Where's his proof at?
60 grape victims per day are denied access.
Yeah, where's his proof? Yeah, where's his proof at?
Oh, that's a great question. So the evidence for the claim that 60 grape victims per day are denied access to abortion. This actually comes
where's his studies?
Samuel, I forget his name. They did a study. And like the way that they conducted their study.
They did a study.
Yeah, and the way
how do you just study that?
Of course. So the way that they conducted their study was by looking at like on the macro scale, like the level of the amount of pregnancies in which, the amount of like grape cases in which would lead to pregnancies. And then once they were able to obtain how many grape cases would lead to pregnancies, they then went into states where abortion was banned in all circumstances, and they accounted for the amount of grape cases in the state to then
they just wrote all
how many of those would be pregnancies.
I already read all that.
And then they went in to abortion clinics like prior to the ban, and they said, well, how many individuals that come in here are here because they got raped and they want an abortion. And then they took those two facts, how many grapes lead to pregnancy, then how many pregnant grape victims get abortions, to estimate.
Dean, they just wrote all that in the article. Dean, they just wrote all that in the article. I read it. So there's no actual studies. There's no actual proof.
This would be data coming from crime stats on the state level. This would be data coming from the abortion practitioners, such as Planned Parenthood.
That sounds good on paper. That a person can just write. So you're still not giving no proof though.
So the evidence comes from public state records of like crime stats, and the evidence comes from the exit polls from abortion clinics and Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood.
Okay, and then this. Okay,
one moment. Planned Parenthood gives us statistics on the demographic of individuals that use their resources. Like we know that 54% of women who get abortions from Planned Parenthoods do so because of the failure of contraceptives. We know that 73% of women that go to Planned Parenthood to get abortions already has a kid and has been in at least one long-term relationship. It's because Planned Parenthood makes those statistics public. And when we study those statistics, see how many of those were a result of grape, compare that to the amount of grape cases in the state, and understand how many grape cases lead to pregnancy, like the estimation of 60 grape victims every day becomes clear. And like this is completely different than some random dude named fucking Ronald making a claim on a blog.
Yeah, he also says the Social Security Administration and DOJ can identify individuals using fraudulent obtained Social Security numbers to help expedite deportations and stop illegal alien-driven crime. So, I mean, it's the same exact thing you just said. They just added it into an article.
Wait, look at this. I'm actually looking at what you're looking at on the computer right now. So Ronald says roughly 75% of quote-unquote illegal aliens have fraudulently attained SSMs. And then do you see how the 75% text there's blue? Because it's a hyperlink?
I don't know what you're looking at.
I'm looking at the same thing that you're looking at. So Ronald actually hyperlinked.
Nothing's highlighted what I'm looking at.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Okay, why are you lying? Anybody could go on Google right now, type in Center for Immigration Studies, how Social Security and DOJ can help expedite deportations. Go to the first thing that pops up in Google. The first big paragraph says, roughly 75% of illegal aliens have fraudulently obtained SSNs. The 75% is blue and hyperlinked to an article by The Hill that is titled Most Illegal Aliens Routinely Commit Felonies, which is all like alt-right propaganda. And there's not one statement anywhere in this piece that talks about how many undocumented migrants.
Your study is propaganda, Dean. Your study is propaganda.
Wait,
Like,
actually,
I can easily say that about. You can easily say that about anything.
I'm actually going to critique the methodology already. So Robert's source is a Hill article which states that undocumented migrants. 75% of undocumented migrants commit felonies. That's his evidence, is a claim that 75% of undocumented migrants commit felonies. And that's the evidence that he's using to say 75% of undocumented migrants have fraudulently attained SSNs.
So you think it's only 1%, Dean? Really? That's crazy. That's insane.
If I had to assume it'd be less than 1%. But I've now completely...
That's insane, bro.
One second. I've now completely disputed your evidence.
No, you haven't.
Yes, I have.
No, you haven't.
Because Ronald gives his evidence. Ronald's evidence for Ronald's claim is a random Hill article that also doesn't give any evidence, but merely says that 75% of undocumented migrants routinely commit felonies. Let's just assume that the Hill article is truthful. I don't think it is. Let's just assume that it's telling the truth. So now we know that 75% of undocumented migrants routinely commit felonies.
You don't like to believe anything.
Of course I don't believe that, because their arrest rates are 2 times lower than citizens, and 75% of citizens don't commit felonies. If they're committing all these felonies, why the hell aren't they getting arrested for it?
Because they're undocumented.
Okay, so you think if you're an undocumented migrant, you're just immune to getting arrested?
No.
Thanks.
But it's crazy how you think that 1% is using fraudulent SSI. Like, I mean,
you asked me to make an estimation. Okay, my estimation could be wrong. I'm not the one making a claim about like how low it is or high it is.
Of course.
But what I am saying is
that you don't have any 1%. Come on, bro.
Okay, you don't have any evidence to indicate that 75% of undocumented migrants have illegally obtained Social Security numbers.
Okay, and you don't have any evidence that how many rape victims a day
Okay,
Like,
I've already
what?
given you my evidence for that claim. I was able to walk you through it. It basically reduced down to public fact provided by Planned Parenthood, crime stats per state, and like the propensity for pregnancy onset by
Dean, you just read an
pregnancy.
article, Dean. That's all you did. That's all you did.
Are you rage baiting me?
Yes, Dean, I'm so rage baiting you. Why did you kick that last guy though? That was a real interesting conversation, bro. Like genuinely.
Yeah.
That was
Wait.
a real-
So I've
that
had
was
two
a
other guests on the
genuinely
stream.
good conversation.
I've had two other guests on my stream, and I've kicked them
You
both.
have to admit that you ran from that guy.
Which
That
the
was a
guy
good-
the guy that
was
said
a-
I don't
that was
care
a good-
about the guy that said I don't care about grape, or the guy that said
Bro,
it's-
hey Dean, be honest.
one?
Be honest. You were looking for any reason to kick that guy.
which one?
Be honest.
Who, Lumberjack or?
You know exactly who the fuck I'm talking about.
There's been
Don't
two
act
guests on the
dumb,
live
Dean.
that I've kicked. Cage.
Yeah, that you talked to for
Calm
like 4
the fuck
seconds.
down. There's been two guests on the live that I've kicked. I kicked Lumberjack, and then I kicked the last guest. Which one are you referencing? The guy I was
Not the
debating
one
on
that you were
abortion,
talking to
or
for 4
Lumberjack for
seconds.
2 hours?
Not the guy that, yeah, exactly. Not the guy you were talking to for 4 seconds.
Okay,
Dean.
so you're talking
Come
about
on,
Lumberjack.
Get real, bro. Get real,
Yeah,
bro.
so I kicked Lumberjack.
That was genuinely a good conversation, though. To be honest, like,
so some parts
I'm
of
gonna
it-
keep it 1,000.
some parts of my conversation were with Lumberjack were good. Like, for instance, when I first
Yeah.
started talking to him and he was making a billion false claims about E. Jean Carroll, and I was able to prove them all wrong, and he conceded, that was good. It felt good to see somebody that is so hell-bent on being
Nah,
right
I
and
don't.
being so willing to
E.G.
engage
Carroll's
in
a whack
conspiracy.
job. We could talk about that too.
Yeah, you're gross.
Oh, you're gonna kick me too, right? You just look for any reason to kick people, bro. And then
You just called a great victim a whack job.
yeah, due to her interview after everything happened, yeah, she's a fucking whack job. You want to talk about it? Let's talk about it. Okay. First things first.
I want to
First
ask you a
things first.
question. How would you feel if you had a daughter that got raped, and then there was random grown men on the internet calling her a whack job? You'd do a lot more than kick them from a live stream, wouldn't you?
If it really happened, I'd be furious. You're absolutely right.
Moving on to the next guest.